Welcome to Shuffle Source. I'm your host Brandon, and we're upgrading the Avengers Assemble Commander Precon deck from the Marvel Superhero set. For this upgrade, we are doing a special budget edition where we're going to be working with a budget of around $25. The plan is to add 10 cards and cut 10 cards to make this deck stronger without breaking the bank. Then, near the end of the video, we'll cover a few no budget options for anyone looking to take the deck even further. Let's get into it. The commander we will be discussing today is Captain America Team Leader for Red, White, and Blue. We have a 3/3 legendary creature human soldier hero that says whenever another hero you control enters, it gains vigilance and haste until end of turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on that hero and a +1/+1 counter on Captain America. So this deck is all about heroes. The goal is to play efficient and powerful heroes as much as we can to build a strong board presence and let Captain America reward us as we do it. Whenever another hero enters the battlefield under our control, it's going to gain vigilance and haste until end of turn, and both that hero and Captain America will get a +1/+1 counter. That means every hero we play can immediately impact the board by attacking right away and permanently growing 2 of our creatures. One important thing to note is that Captain America triggers when a hero enters the battlefield, not when it's cast. That means if we can put a hero directly onto the battlefield through another effect, we'll still get all of the benefits. As we upgrade the deck, we're going to stay focused on the plan by adding stronger heroes, improving our interaction, and including a few powerful payoffs that make our hero army even more threatening.
A special thanks to all of our channel members. Your support truly means a lot and we greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to show your support and get access to some exclusive perks, consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button below. You can also support the channel by liking, subscribing, and dropping a comment. Thank you, and now let's get back to the video.
And here we have the first of our additions. We have Agent Phil Coulson for 1 and a white. We have a 2/2 legendary creature human spy hero that has vigilance, that also has an activated ability, tap to put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. So I really like Agent Phil Coulson for this deck because he's essentially a steel overseer for heroes. For just 2 mana, we get a hero with vigilance that has a way to permanently make our hero stronger. By simply tapping him, we put a +1/+1 counter on every other hero we control, and in a deck packed with heroes, that ability can be a massive upside. Coulson himself is a hero, meaning he'll enter with haste and vigilance thanks to Captain America, and will immediately contribute to our plan. Lastly, several heroes in this deck also have abilities that become stronger as their power or toughness increases, so having Coulson helps maximize those synergies by providing a repeatable source of permanent stat boosts. And here we have the next of our additions. We have Aranya, Heart of the Spider. For 1, a red and a white, we have a 3/3 legendary creature spider human hero that says, whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. So Aranya is another great budget addition here because she provides a way to permanently buff our creatures and give us card advantage. One important call out here is that her first ability triggers whenever you attack. Aranya herself does not have to be the one attacking. As long as you declare attackers, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on any attacking creature you want. That gives you a steady, repeatable way to grow your best threat every combat. However, I do feel the second ability is where this card shines. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you exile the top card of your library and you may play it that turn. Since +1/+1 counters count as modifications, whether it is through Aranya's ability or with Captain America, we're setting this ability up by putting counters on our own creatures. In other words, because we have multiple ways to make our creatures modified, that means Aranya can consistently turn successful attacks into card advantage quite often. And next up, we have Bioorganic Carapace for 2, a white and a blue. We have an artifact equipment. Whenever this equipment enters, attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card for each modified creature you control, and it also has an equipped cost of 2. So this is a great equipment to add to the deck because it can turn one successful attack into a massive burst of card advantage. Now, while it does cost 4 mana, when it enters the battlefield, it automatically equips to one of our creatures, so we don't have to spend mana to equip it right away. The equipped creature will get +2/+2 and have the triggered ability whenever it deals combat damage to a player, we draw a card for each modified creature we control. And thanks to Captain America, modifying our creatures is something we're already naturally doing by putting +1/+1 counters on our heroes whenever they enter the battlefield. In fact, it's not uncommon for most or even all of our heroes to be modified after just a few turns. That means connecting with the equipped creature can easily refill our hand in a single attack. And here's our next edition, Captain America Super Soldier. For 1 and 2 white, we have a 3/2 legendary creature human soldier hero that has first strike. Captain America enters with a shield counter on him. If he would be dealt damage or destroyed, remove a shield counter from him instead. As long as Captain America has a shield counter on him, you and other heroes you control have hexproof. So Captain America Super Soldier is really an easy inclusion here because he gives us access to some much needed protection. Him being a hero himself means he will naturally benefit from our Captain America commander, but more importantly, he helps keep both you and your entire team safe. He enters with a shield counter, and as long as he has that shield counter, you and your other heroes have hexproof, and that can really be a huge deal. Not only does it protect your key creatures from targeted removal, but it also means your opponents can't target you with effects like targeted burn spells, discard, or other abilities that require a player target. I also do like that this is a very efficient creature. A 3/2 with first strike is already a respectable attacker, and the shield counter makes him surprisingly difficult to remove in combat or with destruction based effects. Also, don't forget, if our commander is out, he will actually come in as a 4/3. And here we have Captain America Wings of Freedom. For 2 and a white, we have a 3/1 legendary creature human soldier hero that has flying, first strike, ward 1. Whenever Captain America attacks, each other hero you control gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Captain America's toughness. So I really like this Captain America here because it gives us an overrun effect for our deck, all while being attached to a very efficient flying first strike ward 1 creature. And if we have our commander out, this Captain America enters the battlefield even stronger. By giving it that additional +1/+1 counter, it is effectively making it a 4/2 flying with first strike that can attack right away thanks to that haste. A 4/2 flying first strike that comes with an overrun on it is way worth the 3 mana. Now, besides being a good threat on its own, the big reason we're adding him is because of whenever he attacks, every other hero you control gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is his toughness. That means the bigger we can make Captain America, the more devastating our entire board of heroes become in combat. Now, this pairs nicely with any number of the cards in this deck, or the ones that we're adding that add +1/+1 counters to grow his toughness. By pairing Captain America up with those cards, we can easily use his ability to help close out the game. And here we have Champions from Beyond. For X and 2 white, we have an enchantment that says, when this enchantment enters, create X/1/1 colorless hero creature tokens. Whenever you attack with 4 or more creatures, scry 2, then draw a card. And whenever you attack with 8 or more creatures, those creatures get +4/+4 until end of turn. So Champions from Beyond is probably my favorite addition to the deck here because it really does so much for a single card. So the first thing it does is it creates hero tokens, which is probably the most important part. Since they're heroes, every token entering the battlefield will trigger Captain America Team Leader, giving each one haste and vigilance while also putting a +1/+1 counter on both the token and our commander. So that means if you cast this for X equals 4, you're not just making 4 1/1s, you're making 4 2/2 heroes with haste and vigilance and putting 4 counters onto Captain America in the process. That's just excellent synergy with our commander. Now, beyond that, the enchantment continues to reward us for doing what the deck wants to do, and that's attack with a lot of heroes. If we swing with 4 or more creatures, we get to scry 2 and draw a card, helping us keep our engine going. If you swing with 8 or more, your attacking creatures get +4/+4 until end of turn, turning an already impressive board into potentially a game ender. Here's our next edition, Herald of Secret Streams. For 3 and a blue, we have a 2/3 creature Murloc Warrior that says creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them can't be blocked. Now, while Herald of the Secret Streams is not a hero itself, it's a great addition because it gives the deck one of the best forms of evasion possible, making our creatures completely unblockable. Since Captain America is constantly putting +1/+1 counters on our heroes when they enter, it's incredibly easy for us to satisfy this condition. In practice, that means almost every hero we play after our commander is on the battlefield will be able to attack without fear of being blocked if Herald is on the board. And since this deck really wins through combat damage, making sure they connect is very important. Next up, we have Spider, piloted by Penny. For 3 a white and a blue, we have a 4/4 legendary artifact creature Spider hero that has vigilance. When Spider enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So Spider is another great budget addition here because it rewards us for something we're already doing, and that's attacking with modified creatures. Additionally, as a hero itself, it slots right into the deck for all of the other hero synergies. I also like that when it enters, it gives a +1/+1 counter out to a target creature, which can help us make sure that we have modified creatures to satisfy its second ability. Speaking of that ability, whenever a modified creature we control deals combat damage to a player, we get to draw a card. And again, since +1/+1 counters are modifications and this deck has no problem handing out +1/+1 counters, it basically means every time we attack and it connects, it doesn't just deal damage, but it also refills our hand. I also like that this doesn't say one or more, so if we can connect with more than one creature, we're going to get a lot of cards. And here we have our next edition, Spectacular Spider-Man. For 1 and a white, we have a 3/2 legendary creature, Spider Human Hero, that has Flash. You can pay 1, Spectacular Spider-Man gains flying until end of turn. You can also pay 1, sacrifice Spectacular Spider-Man. Creatures you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So I really like Spectacular Spider-Man here because it gives our deck another source of protection from board wipes and removal. Additionally, as a 2-mana hero with Flash, it really offers a lot of flexibility, letting us deploy it at instant speed and surprise our opponents. Now, his activated flying ability is also more relevant than it might first appear. For just 1 mana, we can give him flying until end of turn, making it easier to sneak in combat damage to our opponents. However, the real reason we're playing this card is because of that sacrifice ability. For just 1 mana, we can sacrifice Spectacular Spider-Man, even at instant speed if needed, to give all of our creatures hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. That can completely protect us from a board wipe or make it so our key heroes can't be picked off with targeted removal. In a deck that's heavily invested in growing our board and attacking with as many heroes as we can, making sure we have ways to protect them is going to be vital. And here we have the last of our additions. We have Spider-Woman's Stunning Savior. For 1 and a hybrid white-blue, we have a 2/2 legendary creature, Spider Human Hero, that has flying and Venom Blast. Artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter tapped. So we are playing a deck that has access to white and blue, so adding some cards that help disrupt our opponents is always great. Spider-Woman will help slow down our opponents while we work on advancing our own aggressive game plan. And as a hero herself, she will naturally strategize with our other hero payoffs. That static ability is really fantastic here because we're causing artifacts and creatures our opponents control to enter the battlefield tapped, which means we get to slow down our opponent's board development and make it much harder for them to immediately use mana rocks, blockers, or newly cast creatures against us. If our opponent's creatures are entering tapped, they're much less likely to have any creatures available to block our attacking creatures. And all on top of that, she also is an evasive threat herself. We have now made it to the removals portion of the video, and we're going to kick it off with Bastion Protector. For 2 and a white, we have a 3/3 creature human soldier that says commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have indestructible. So this is a solid card, but I think it was one of the easier cuts for me because it just seems to be a bit too narrow. Its entire purpose is to make our commander bigger and give it indestructible, but it really doesn't do anything else for the rest of our hero army, including it not being a hero itself. Now, this deck isn't really trying to win by making Captain America a giant Voltron threat. It's really trying to flood the battlefield with efficient and powerful heroes to overwhelm our opponents. We've also added several other cards that help protect our entire team, not just our commander. Cards like Spectacular Spider-Man, for example, can give all of our creatures hexproof and indestructible at the exact moment we need it. And next on the chopping block, we have Captain Marvel Apex Avenger. For 5 a red and a white, we have a 4/4 legendary creature, Human Kree Hero, that has flying, double strike, indestructible. Whenever you put 1 or more counters on another creature, if it's not a Kree, you may put the same number and kind of counters on Captain Marvel. Now, Captain Marvel is strong, but 7 mana is a lot of mana to invest in a creature that doesn't really outright win you the game. This cut also helps with lowering the mana curve a little bit for this deck, and at 7 mana, she's one of the most expensive spells in the deck. And additionally, as we've upgraded the deck, we intentionally shifted the focus towards playing more efficient heroes that come down early, trigger our commander, and keep the pressure going from the beginning and middle portions of the game. Now, don't get me wrong, Captain Marvel can be a real threat if left unanswered over several turns, but I think the deck performs better overall by shaving some of its expensive top end and replacing it with some more cheaper, high impact heroes that keep the engine running. And here's our next removal, Gift of Immortality. For 2 and a white, we have an enchantment aura that says enchant creature. When enchanted creature dies, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Return this card to the battlefield attached to that creature at the beginning of the next end step. If one hero dies, we can usually replace it with another or recur it through other means. We don't need to invest an entire card just to keep one creature alive. There's also the issue of timing here. Gift of Immortality brings the creature back after it dies, which means we lose all of the counters and combat momentum that we've built on the creature the rest of that turn. In many cases, I'd rather prevent the removal altogether than recover from it afterwards. We've also added protection pieces that cover our entire battlefield instead of a single target. Those cards do a much better job of preserving our hero army without any interruption. And here we have Hawkeye Avenging Archer. For 2, a blue and a red, we have a 3/4 legendary creature human archer hero that has reach. Whenever a creature an opponent control dies, if Hawkeye dealt damage to it this turn, draw a card. It also has an active ability where you can tap it. Hawkeye deals 1 damage to any target. So Hawkeye is a flavorful hero. I mean, he is a member of the Avengers after all, but I think he's one of the easier cuts here because his design doesn't really lend to this deck strategy. His card draw ability only triggers if a creature an opponent control dies and Hawkeye dealt damage to it this turn. That's a pretty specific condition that's not always easy to set up without significant changes to this deck. Sure, he can tap to deal 1 damage to any target, but in Commander, that's often not enough to finish off the creatures that really matter. Unless we're spending additional resources to help Hawkeye pick off creatures, he's frequently just sitting on the battlefield as an overcosted 3/4 with reach. And here we have our next removal, Love on the Battlefield. For 1, a blue and a red, we have an enchantment that says, whenever you attack with exactly 2 creatures, those creatures gain first strike until end of turn, then draw a card. Whenever either one of those creatures deals combat damage to a player this combat, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So straight up, I don't think that this card really lines up with how this deck wants to play. Its biggest limitation is that it only triggers when you attack with exactly 2 creatures, which is really not the focus of our game plan. Captain America rewards us for continually adding heroes to the battlefield and building a wider board. In many games, we'll be attacking with 3, 4, or even more creatures, making it really awkward to consistently enable this enchantment. I'd rather just play cards that reward us for simply attacking with our hero army, not cards that ask us to hold creatures back to meet a specific condition. And next on the chopping block, we have Patriot Shield Wielder. For 1 and a white, we have a 2/2 legendary creature human hero, where you can pay 2, tap it, another target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains hexproof until end of turn. So this card was another easy cut for me because I feel like it's relatively low impact for the overall deck. However, the main issue is that it requires 2 mana and having to tap it. In many cases, I'd rather spend the mana casting another hero or advancing my board instead of holding it up for a temporary buff. Now, we also did add several other protection pieces that either safeguard our entire team or provide much more explosive value, often with evasion. Compared to those effects, Patriot's 1 creature at a time protection just doesn't have the same impact as the others. And here we have Scavenger Grounds. It is a land desert where you can tap it to add a colorless, or you can pay 2, tap it, sacrifice a desert, exile all graveyards. So Scavenger Grounds is a fine utility land, but I think it's the easiest land to cut from the deck. We started with 38 lands, and after testing the curve and making our upgrades, I feel comfortable with trimming that number down to 37 lands. And if we're only going to cut 1 land, I want it to be the one that contributes the least to our primary game plan. Now, while the graveyard hate can occasionally be relevant, there are also plenty of games where we don't want to exile graveyards at all. And that's mainly because we have several cards in the deck that can recur creatures or otherwise get value from our own graveyard. Activating Scavenger Ground would exile those resources. And next up we have Thor, Asgard's Avenger. For 2 and 2 red, we have a 4/4 legendary creature God Warrior hero that has flying. If another source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage +1 instead. So Thor is a solid hero, but again, similar to Hawkeye, it doesn't really fit the direction that we're taking this deck. His damage boosting ability is at its best in a strategy built around doing direct damage, burn spells, or ping effects where the extra point of damage adds up over the course of the game. And that's simply not really what this deck's trying to do. Our primary game plan is to flood the battlefield with heroes, grow them with +1/+1 counters, and win through combat. Thor doesn't really help enhance that in a meaningful way. Don't get me wrong, a 4/4 flyer is a respectable body, but the static ability just is not pulling enough weight in this deck. And here's our next removal, Tome of Legends. For 2 colorless, we have an artifact book. This artifact enters with a page counter on it. Whenever your commander enters or attacks, put a page counter on this artifact. And you can pay 1 and tap it, remove a page counter from this artifact, draw a card. So Tome of Legends is an okay source of card draw in an aggressive deck, but I think it's one that we can afford to cut because the upgraded version of this deck has plenty of better card advantage. Between the new heroes and supporting pieces we're adding, we're not going to be really hurting for a way to keep our hand full. I also prefer card draw that naturally synergizes with our game plan. Several of our additions reward us simply for attacking, dealing combat damage, or playing heroes, things we want to be doing every turn. Additionally, those cards don't require extra mana to convert the counters into cards and can oftenly draw us multiple cards per turn instead of just one. And here we have the last of our removals. We have Vision, Synthezoid Avenger, 4/4 colorless. We have a 3/3 legendary artifact creature robot hero that has flying. Whenever a player casts a spell, if it isn't that player's turn, choose one. Put a +1/+1 counter on Vision, or Vision phases out. Treat him and anything attached to him as they don't exist until your next turn. So Vision is a neat card, but I don't think that he contributes enough to our primary game plan. Now, while his triggered ability can generate value, it's not something we have much control over in this particular deck. Whenever any player casts a spell outside of their turn, we get to choose whether to put a +1/+1 counter on Vision or have him phase out. Problem is that our deck really isn't built to cast many spells on our opponent's turns. So really in practice, we're relying heavily on our opponents to trigger Vision by casting instant or flash spells. Now, while that's something we're likely to see, it's not something that we can guarantee reliably from game to game. And even when the ability does trigger, the payoff is fairly self-contained. Vision either grows himself or protects himself, but he doesn't really help the rest of our hero army or advance our core strategy.
Hey everyone, I wanted to take a moment to give a huge shout out to our partner, the Mighty Meeple. If you're in or visiting the Concord, North Carolina area, the Mighty Meeple is the local game store to check out. Their team is friendly, knowledgeable, and always ready to help you find exactly what you need. From Magic and board games to minis and more, whatever your hobby, they've got you covered. And even if you're not local, no problem. You can shop for Magic singles and other TCGs at mightymeeple.com. Use promo code SHUFFLE for 5% off your order. Thank you. And now let's get back to the video.
We have now made it to the no budget options, and we are going to kick it off with Cavern of Souls. It is a land. As Cavern of Souls enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. You can tap it to add a colorless, or you can tap it, add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, and that spell can't be countered. So Cavern of Souls is one of the best lands that you can add to any typal deck, and this hero deck is no exception. The colored mana ability is excellent because not only does it color fix our mana, it also makes it to where our hero spells can't be countered. That can be a huge advantage against decks that want to counterspell our key heroes. And best of all, the opportunity cost is almost non-existent here. It's a land slot that improves our mana while ensuring that we're able to cast our heroes. And here's our next no budget option. We have Chronicle of Victory for 6 colorless. We have a legendary artifact. As Chronicle of Victory enters, choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +2/+2 and have first strike and trample. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, draw a card. So Chronicle of Victory is an absolute powerhouse in this deck and a great top-end payoff. As it enters the battlefield, we're going to choose hero, immediately giving our entire team +2/+2, first strike, and trample. And that already alone is enough to make combat a nightmare for our opponents. Additionally, every time we cast another hero spell, we're going to get to draw a card. And since this deck is packed with efficient heroes, Chronicle turns nearly every creature we play into card draw while simultaneously making our board bigger and harder to block effectively. And here we have the last of our no budget options. We have Roaming Throne for 4 colorless. We have a 4/4 artifact creature golem that has ward 2. As Roaming Throne enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Roaming Throne is the chosen type in addition to its other types. If a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. Roaming Throne is another one of the strongest additions that you can add to any sort of typal deck. Because we're all about heroes and a lot of our heroes have triggered abilities, our commander included, the extra value this card provides is really game changing. As an example, our commander's ability is a triggered ability that occurs whenever another hero enters the battlefield. With Roaming Throne in play, that trigger happens twice. That means not only is every hero entering with haste and vigilance as usual, but now it gets 2 +1/+1 counters, and Captain America also receives 2 +1/+1 counters instead of 1. Now it's also going to double the triggered abilities of many of the other heroes we're adding to the deck. whether that's drawing cards, handing out additional counters, or generating even more value from attacking. And because Roaming Throne becomes a hero itself, it will also benefit from all of the other hero synergies. And there you have it. After upgrading this deck, we have a final upgrade cost of $26.64. This total does not include the no budget options that we covered. Now I know this does go over our $25 budget, but several of the cards we're adding still have pre-release pricing, so I fully expect those numbers to go down, putting us within the budget in a very short amount of time. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. It really helps out the channel and it helps other viewers find us to learn more about upgrades. So tell me what you think about the Avengers Assemble Precon. Do you agree with the additions and removals? Let me know in the comments. And as always, until next time, thank you for watching.